Welcome back to the Daily Taoist with Will Nemo. We are talking about the Tao Te Ching and how to get back into spirit and alignment with the way. I will be your host on this journey of 81 verses, along with Lao-Tzu and that eternal force known only as the Tao. Today, I will be talking about verse 18. Living without rules. When the greatness of the Tao is present, action arises from one's own heart. When the greatness of the Tao is absent, action comes from the rules of kindness and justice. If you need rules to be kind and just, if you act virtuous, it is a sure sign that virtue is absent. And thus we see the great hypocrisy. When kinship falls into discord, piety and rites of devotion arise. And when the country falls into chaos, official loyalists will appear and patriotism is born. Picture yourself in a world where rules and laws do not exist and where everyone lives peacefully and harmoniously. There is no thievery, anarchy, hatred, or war. People simply live, work, love, and play without needing to be governed. Can you imagine a planet where the need for codes of conduct and edicts to govern the populace were simply unnecessary? This is the sort of idealistic mental meandering that led Lao-Tzu to create this 18th verse of the Tao Te Ching, in which he's clearly stating, you do not need rules to be kind and just. I am suggesting that when you change the way you look at the underlying reason for regulation, the organizations controlling society, politics, and the criminal justice system will eventually change. And need I add, for the better. When you alter your viewpoint to a Tao-oriented one, you cease to see your dominant reason for being and doing as dictated by your nation, city, school, religion, or even your condominium association. Laws and rules are seen by many as solely responsible for effective kindness, justice, and love. But you can choose to live from your heart, viewing these virtues as individual responsibilities that you adhere to without a statute or convention telling you to. This is what I mean by living without rules. You can choose to see yourself in harmony with the regulation and laws of your business, government, family, and religion rather than because of them. I promise that when you adjust rule-based thinking to heart-based attitude, your life will change. In the Tao orientation, unlimited joy, kindness, abundance, and well-being flow through all. Seeing life in this way makes rules irrelevant. You can act in accordance with this abundance and beneficence, which are essence of the Tao. Make love the bedrock of your family's motivation to be loving, rather than just feeling obligated to be kind to others. This doesn't mean there isn't a certain amount of etiquette or behavior to follow. It just means the reason to do so is that kindness and love flow through all individuals. And if there is any crime, it's the stopping or hindering of that energy of the Tao. You and your children can learn to change the way you look at edicts and laws. When harmony is lost, A rule may seem to be helpful, but make sure everyone in the family realizes that you're inviting them to learn to live without it. The absence of codes of conduct are proof that we aren't allowing the Tao to flow freely through our lives. Learning that it is each individual's personal responsibility to live without governing will ultimately demonstrate that when you change your thoughts, you change your life. This idea extends further. Ask yourself if laws create a healthy society and if patriotism is valuable. Does it appear that when a country has fallen into chaos or some form of civil war, laws and codes concerning patriotism seem to be enforced? Rules are created to impose penalties to control or govern people who haven't learned their individual responsibility as part of the wholeness of a group. Yet a national sense of unity doesn't regulate a universal sense, for the Tao oneness is greater than any group on earth. So we have a summary of what it takes when the great way is deserted. The need for justice arises. Falsity among the people creates a need for rules, and rulers are needed to restore order. Political ministers appear to bring light to the disorder and darkness. Knowing all of this, I believe it is essential to get back to that picture I asked you to envision a few paragraphs ago and apply what Lao-Tzu is saying in this profound verse of the Tao Te Ching. Let your actions arise from your Tao-centered heart. When you're centered in the Tao, you do not need any rules or are bound by what's declared to be illegal or legal. Your reason for not stealing from others isn't because it's against the law. Rather, you assume personal responsibility for your actions. Your life isn't based on living by rules. Your reason for not stealing is that you respect the rights of others to be free from pilfering because it resonates with the Tao. In the Tao, there is no stealing because everything belongs to everyone. There is no ownership of land or property. There is only the willingness to love and respect everything and everyone and all things. Laws make stealing or maiming or fighting illegal arose because of the disconnection from the Tao. Don't act virtuous, become virtue or be virtue. Acting virtuous is not the same as being virtuous. So the Tao instructs you to be authentic in all of your interactions. To be pious because of your own heart feels the piety that is the great Tao. To be spontaneously generous to others because your inner calling demands it, not because others in their code making have determined that this is how you should behave. Don't wait for the chaos to erupt before your desire to reach out and help your fellow humans. Yet, if you change the way you look at natural disaster, you could also see as a reminder to let the Tao be your guiding spirit at all times. This would inspire your patriotism to be for all humanity rather than confined to the land where you happen to be born. Again, I would like to remind you of the similar sentiment expressed by Hafiz, the great Sufi poet. Everyone is God speaking. Why not be polite and listen to him? And everyone really means everyone, not just those who are subject to your rules and your laws. Do the Tao now. Emphasize why you're obeying human made edicts today. Spend some time connecting to the underlying reason for stopping at a red light, having a driver's license, wearing a seatbelt, paying to enter a movie theater, or not drinking and driving. See if your ego enjoys breaking rules for its purposes by listing all the rules and laws you obey or disobey in one day, and then identify your most heart centered rules. So, this happened to me quite recently. Um, and if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you probably know my thoughts on governance and governing. Um, I don't believe that the government should have so much control over people's lives in general. I'm very libertarian in that sense, right? Just let people alone and let their own natures take care of things, right? And I'm not a lawbreaker. I don't break the law, not intentionally, but I am forgetful. You know, I have a lot going on in my life. 3 podcasts, 3 businesses, full-time job. You know, and it takes a lot of juggling to manage all of these things. So I forgot to renew my insurance for my truck, and it didn't become a problem until I was pulled over by the RCMP constable, or the police in vernacular terms. And the whole interaction, I wasn't rude. I wasn't even upset, really. It just got me thinking about, again, the role in government and why we have such rules and such laws, right? The reason we have insurance is so that, if you get into an accident, you know, you and the other party can come to a reasonable agreement on who is at fault and who will be paying damages to either vehicle, personal property, and life and limb. So in a Tao centered world, there would be no need for insurance in the traditional sense, right? Because everybody would be paying their fair share, right? They're all their basic needs would be covered, right? But we're right now, the way that I see it is that the government or the insurance companies, they're the middlemen between what is right and what is reasonable, right? If 2 people get into an accident and a collision, in a perfect world, they should just come to a reasonable agreement between the two of them and say, yeah, okay, I'm at fault. I agree to pay this amount, and it's done, right? You could do that. You don't necessarily have to go through insurance. It's happened to me in the past, um, right? I have a near perfect driving record, right? I haven't been in an at fault accident in 10 years, longer, but I still pay over $1,000 a year for my insurance, right? And I don't know. It got me thinking about maybe there should be a better way of doing things, a less um, government hands in their back pocket sort of approach to things, right? In Canada, at least, um, the government has its hands in your pocket for everything, right? And I am I'm increasingly trying to become sovereign, move away from government, um, move away from government entanglements, right? Right. I ideally would like to live in the cabin in the woods and not a soul around for miles, and hunt and fish, grow my own vegetables, uh, and not be reliant on any of these institutions. You know what I mean? So if you are of that same mindset, please get in touch with me here at the Daily Taoist. I go by Will Nemo now. All of my socials are out there. The Yukon Gold podcast, where I talk mostly about sovereignty and interesting technology and science developments out in the ether. The Doomer Bloomer podcast, where I talk about how to become a integrated person through the hero's journey, which I am more than qualified to do, to take you from a bloomer or from a doomer to a bloomer. And here on the Daily Taoist, I talk about obviously Taoism and more Eastern Chinese philosophy. If any of those three things interest you whatsoever, please get in touch, especially on my Twitter. I'm most active there at the Daily Taoist, at Yukon Gold Podcast, at Doomer Podcast. I also have the Instagrams, Daily Taoist, Doomer Bloomer, same names. I had a brief foray into TikTok, but wasn't for me. As they say, those who know do not speak. So, peace and namaste from Will Nemo. Cheers.